Hey folks, this is another video in a series that aspires to teach Google Apps Script to beginners. In previous videos, we learned how to structure our projects, how to input values so that we can get output, and how to use the plus symbol for concatenation as well as math. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we will add a new script file that we will call c_dates. We'll hit enter, and we will change the name of my function to date explore with a capital E. We'll hit save. We'll click on line 2, hit enter once, add 2 slashes for a comment, and now we will extract the date and time. So we'll hit enter and tab, and we'll declare a variable called today, which will be set equal to new space capital D date. We'll add a semicolon, and we'll hit enter twice, 2 slashes for a comment, where we will say logging for transparency. So we'll hit enter and tab, and we'll use logger.log. We'll open up a parentheses, and we will pass in the today variable with the right arrow on our keyboard and add a semicolon. We'll hit run. So you can use new date in order to extract the current date and time based on where you are located. So you can see it is Sunday, September 1st at 1:10 in the morning in 2024. So you get a date and time value when you use new date. Now, I just want to kind of preface this lesson by saying that dates are very complicated because of all of these inputs that you're seeing here and the way that date times are calculated as well as how they're structured. This is a general overview of what exists within AppScript. You could spend years learning how to work with dates and times and all that type of stuff. I myself figure new stuff out every week that I didn't previously know. So this is, just a best effort to try and just expose you to dates so that if it is something that you want to work with, you have a foundation with which to grow and progress. So we're going to resume on line 7, and we're going to hit enter twice. We'll hit the left arrow on our keyboard 4 times, and we'll add 2 slashes for a comment. And now we will learn how to convert the date time to the date as a number. We'll hit enter and tab, and we'll declare a variable of day, and we'll set that equal to today.getDate. We'll have an open parentheses, and we'll hit the right arrow on our keyboard and add a semicolon. We'll hit enter twice, we'll add 2 slashes for a comment, and we will say logging. We'll hit enter and tab, and we'll do logger.log, and then we'll pass in that day variable. We'll hit the right arrow on our keyboard once, add a semicolon, and then run our code. So now you can see that we are extracting the day using .getDate. If you want to get the month, you do a similar thing. So we're going to resume on line 13. We're going to hit enter 2 times, hit the left arrow on our keyboard 4 times. We'll add 2 slashes for a comment, and now we will extract the month from the today variable. We're going to hit enter and tab. And we're going to declare a variable called month, and we'll set that equal to today.getMonth. And we'll have an open parentheses with the right arrow on our keyboard, and we will add a semicolon. We'll hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment. We'll say logging for transparency. We'll hit enter and tab, and we'll do capital L logger.log, open parentheses, where we will pass in that month variable. We'll hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and we'll add a semicolon. Now I want you to take note of this because it is unique. So when we log out today.getMonth, you'll see that we are returning a value of 8. but we are in September, which is the 9th month of the year. And the reason for that is because get month is structured in a 0 index. And that means that the count begins at 0. So January is the first month of the year, and it is commonly referred to as month number 1. So for a date, depending upon where you are, let's say that you're structuring your date in a year, month, day format. If you're in January, you would commonly write 2024-01, but in a 0 index, 1 is represented by 0. And that's why you're getting the value of 8 instead of 9, because even though we're in the 9th month, we are in a 0 index count, which is returning 8, which is technically the 9th month, even though the number doesn't represent it. So if you want to, for whatever your project is, use the month number and you want to normalize it, you can very easily do it by just adding 1 to your month. So for example, we are logging out our month here. We're not using it for anything else. We can use a plus sign, and then we can add 1. And then when we run our code, instead of returning an 8, we are now returning a 9. So we have normalized the 0 index now so that the month will always add 1 to its number in order to get the human readable version of the month number. Cool. So that is something that is going to come up as you do things in AppScript, and if you continue to program, you will need to figure out how your index is structured. There are things that are 0 index, there are things that start their index at 1. So if you are getting an unusual result, one place to begin your exploration to figure out what's going on is to see how the index is structured. So in addition to the month and day, if you want to, you can also extract the time. So I'm going to hit enter twice, left arrow on my keyboard 4 times. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and now I will extract the time. So I'll hit enter and tab. I'll declare a variable called time, and I will set that equal to today dot, and then I can get the local, is that what it is? Oh, here we go. I can get time down here, add a semicolon, hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, and I will do some logging. I'll hit enter and tab, and I'll do logger.log, and I can pass in time. And now when I run it, you'll see that we're getting our time as a number, which is not really helpful. This is an example of how working with date time can get very complicated. So, there are some instances where you get hyperliteral numbers coming back at you that are not as applicable. So what you can do is, let me see if I can do it here. There we go. Okay. So we're going to change we're going to use local time. So after our logger, we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we're going to say get local time, and we're going to hit enter and tab. And we're going to declare a variable called local capital T time, and we'll set that equal to today dot. And when we use our dot methods, we have all of these options here. So there's so many different things that you can use. So instead of using 2, we are going to use to local time string. And we'll use an open parentheses here. And we'll hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, and we'll do logging. And we'll hit enter and tab, and we'll do logger.log, open parentheses, local time, which is that variable that we just created. And now you can see when we log out our data, instead of getting a hyperliteral time, we are now getting the local time, which is represented up here. So this is more human readable formatting. So that's going to be something that you're going to come into contact with the more that you do programming, is you're going to have literal strings or literal objects or numbers or integers or floats or all that type of stuff, which is what's represented here. This is a hyperlogical representation of the time. Or you will have the formatted version, which is human readable, which means that it's something that we're used to seeing. So if you want to do that with time, I would recommend using today.toLocalTimeString. Now, the difference between these two, and I don't have a ton of experience with the two of them, is that sometimes you're working with values and sometimes you're working with display values. So the same way in the concat and math section, when we attempted to concat a string plus a number, we got a string instead of the math operation that we wanted. The same thing can happen with dates and times, where if you're looking to do calculations to show differences in times, you might have some formatting issues. But we're not going to get into all of that today because, like I said, these things really depend on what you're looking to do with them, and they get complicated quickly because of how dynamic and how many variables there are. So we're going to resume on line 31. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to hit the left arrow on our keyboard 6 times. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment. And now we are going to learn how to format the date. So we're going to hit enter and tab, and we are going to declare a variable of format capital D date, and we'll set that equal to. So there's a couple different ways that you can do this. You could use the today function, and you can use the dot, and then you could do to local date string, and you can have an open parentheses in here. And if you add a semicolon at the end, you really don't have to, but we will. We'll hit enter twice. We'll add 2 slashes for comment, and now we will say logging. We'll hit enter and tab. We'll do logger.log. We'll open up a parentheses, and we will pass in that format date. We'll hit run. And now you can see that we are getting 9/1/2024, which is the same thing as September 1, 2024, formatted in month, day, year. Now, if you don't want month, day, year, and you want a little bit more flexibility over your date formatting, you can also use utilities. So we're going to resume on line 37. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to hit the left arrow on our keyboard 4 times, and we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment. And now we will format the date using utilities. I'm going to hit enter and tab. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to close some of these menus up here because we don't need them anymore. And this is why I like using that enter tab structure, because now we have a little menu here of all the things that we've done, and we have a clean screen so that we can continue to work and not feel like we're on an infinity scroll. So I'm going to declare another variable, and I'm going to reuse that format date variable that we used because it doesn't matter. We're not using it in any other context. So we will be using capital U utilities dot format date. And we have an open parentheses. And now you can see that format date as a function, my apologies, I didn't think about that before naming these variables. So what we're going to do is change this one just for best practice. So we'll call this format example. And we'll change this to format example. And then we will also call this format example. So the reason that we are changing the format date variable is because a function exists called format date. And you don't want to have the same names in here because that can result in complications for the code to compile. So you saw that we didn't have any issues, and we probably wouldn't have had any issues if we continued forward. But once I realized that a variable name was a function name that I was going to use, I changed my variable names so that it wasn't confusing and didn't cause complications. So again, I apologize for the bad direction there. I didn't even realize it. So the format date function allows you to use new date in order to come up with your own formatting of the date. So when we use toLocalDateString up here, we only had the option of getting it as the local version of month, day, year, or year, day, month, however your local region structures date strings. But with the utilities.formatDate, we have more flexibility over how we structure it. So the first thing that we're going to pass in there is that today function that we created. And we're going to use a comma. You can also use new date down here if you want to, but because we used it in a variable, our today variable, we can pass that the same way. But it doesn't matter. You can start with new date or you can use the today function. It doesn't matter. So the next thing is you establish the time zone that you want to format your date for. So I'm in Eastern Standard, so I'm going to use EST. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. And the third argument is however we want to format it. So you'll notice in the documentation over here that year needs to be in lowercase, month needs to be in uppercase, D needs to be in lowercase. Hours needs to be in uppercase, minutes needs to be in lowercase, seconds needs to be in lowercase. So we're going to use single quotes, or you can use double quotes if that's what you've been using. And we are going to structure our date as a month year example. So we're going to pass in 4 M's, and we're going to add a space, and then we're going to do 4 Y's, and then we're going to run our code. And now, oh, my apologies. We're going to actually, we need to log it in order to get it to show up. So we're going to go to line 40. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to have 2 slashes for a comment, and now we'll add some logging. So we'll hit enter and tab, and we'll do logger.log, and we'll have an open parentheses, and we will pass in the format example. We'll hit the right arrow on our keyboard, add a semicolon. You'll notice that I did not add semicolons at various points, like here in this lesson. You don't have to, the code will still compile. So now when we run it, you'll see instead of getting 9/1/24, I'm now getting full September 2024. So if you do all 4 characters, you will get the full month name. If you use 3 M's, you will get the shortened version or the truncated version. If you use 2 M's, you will get a 2-digit number. And if you use 1 M, you will get 1 number. Cool. So you can mess around with this. Same thing happens with year. So you could get 1-digit month, year. You could get, you could get full month name, day, year, and you can get full September 1st, 2024. So lots of flexibility with the utilities.formatDate. I'll let you play around with it so that you can, do whatever you want to with it. The last thing that we are going to touch on today is we're going to select line 43, hit enter twice, hit the left arrow on your keyboard 4 times, 2 slashes for a comment, and now we will learn how to add and subtract days. Enter tab, and we'll do var date capital M math, and we'll set that equal to new capital D date, and we'll open up a parentheses. And now we're going to set a new date using some math. So we're going to use that today variable that we created on line 3 up top here. So on line 4 we have var today equals new date. So we are going to reference today, and we're going to do dot set capital D date, and we'll have an open parentheses, and then we will do today dot get capital D date. We'll have an open parentheses, and then we will subtract 5. We'll hit the right arrow on our keyboard twice, add a semicolon, hit enter twice, 2 slashes for a comment, where we will add some logging. We'll hit enter and tab, and we'll do logger.log, open parentheses, date, capital M, math. Now when we hit run, you'll see instead of September 1st, we are now getting August 27th. And that's because we subtracted 5 from today.getDate, and then we set today's date to represent those values. So we can remove 5 or we can add 5. So you'll see up top here, when we use today, we get September 1st, and then down here, we get September 6th. I hope you found this video helpful. If you'd like to continue following this series, there's a playlist linked in the description.